Welcome to Now Let's Talk, the podcast with Vanessa Corwin and Kathleen Kahn, where we speak with our guests about the joys and challenges of life in today's world.
Hello, I'm Vanessa Corwin.
And I'm Kathleen Kahn.
If you've ever lived in or visited New York, you've got a story. You know, something that could only happen in the great city of New York. We all have them. So we sat down with some friends to share our stories, and here's the first episode of Only in New York.
So who wants to go first?
Do we have a volunteer?
I'll go first. I'm Jennifer Hassan. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone telling our New York stories. It was hard to pick just one, but I think this is kind of a good one, and it's a definitive one in my life. Rush hour after a long day at the office, jam-packed, noisy, sweltering R train heading downtown to where I live. At 34th Street Herald Square, a tall, thin young man with blonde hair and disarming blue eyes walks onto the train, very handsome. He's wearing a cowboy hat. He steps in, he squeezes into an available seat next to me. Very exotic looking. I'm a New Yorker, and he clearly ain't from around here. He looks at me and he asks, "Want to hear a song on my harmonica?" Sure. He pulls a harmonica out of his back pocket and proceeds with this dulcet, sort of melancholy version of Home on the Range. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play. Now, antelope is the operative word in my New York story. So the subway car falls silent, and the riders are mesmerized, or maybe just grateful for this momentary, unexpected respite from the rat race. And of course, it ends too soon. At 42nd Street, he leans over and kisses me on the cheek.
Oh.
He stands up, he tucks his harmonica into his back pocket, and walks off into the crowd. Now, this was almost 30 years ago. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because life takes us in interesting directions. So I often joke that my cowboy and that experience was a foreshadowing and a sort of like a portent of things to come in my life personally. Because years later, I found a part-time home in the West, in Arizona. Now, it's not the range where the deer and the antelope play, as the song goes, but on the wide open acres of the citrus farmer I met and fell in love with.
There you go.
Wow.
20 years ago. 20 years ago. So, and the first time I'd ever seen an antelope was in small herds along the highway. And I had no idea what these creatures were. And now I live with about a dozen of them mounted on the walls of Mark's house, because he's an avid game hunter. So the hunting trophies, there they are, staring at me. It's not because of my harmonica playing cowboy that I ended up here, but I think of it as a segue in my life, and sort of as I said, a sort of foreshadowing of what has turned out to be quite an adventure.
It just seems like it was definitely a sign of things to come for you.
Yeah.
I think so. I like to think so.
Something happened to me recently, and that's what gave me the idea about why everybody's got a New York story.
So why don't you tell it, Kat?
Okay. I'm on the Lexington bus going downtown, and it wasn't very full. And I'm looking out the window, and this girl is in front of me, and I can see she keeps with her eye, getting my attention. And she says something. So I get closer and I said, "Excuse me?" And she said, "Did somebody force you to look like that?" I go, no, did somebody force you? And then I figure, okay, walk away or just forget it. And then she comes back and she says, I've never seen anybody like you. And so I said, well, where do you come from? Ready? Brooklyn.
God.
The hinterlands. What?
I swear to God, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. I
So I
mean,
thought if I had this, everybody's got something.
absolutely.
You should have said, I'm a unicorn. Haven't you ever seen a unicorn before? No. How do you answer that, right?
Really? I know.
So who wants to go next?
So, Donna, why don't you do yours?
Okay. So I'm Donna, and I live at the crossroads of the East Village and Union Square East, right there on the corner. And so I'm going to go back. My story takes place in either 1979 or 1980, give or take a year or two. Who remembers? But coming home from work, my then husband and I, too tired to cook, pick up the phone, we call our local Chinese place, order in. We're settling in for the night, waiting for our food, and we hear some noise in our hallway, and we don't pay any attention to it, assuming it's just the neighbors. Now, the floors in my building are an L-shaped, and we're in the short part of the L. So even if we looked out the door, out of the peephole, we couldn't see anything. So we're hanging out waiting for our food, and we get a phone call, and my husband answers it. Doorman's calling saying your food delivery guy is here. And the doorman says, can't send him up, not allowed to send anybody up to the 11th floor. You have to come down and get it. And he says, no, send him up. And doorman says, no, you got to come down. Very frustrated because now food is going to start getting cold. So he opens the door, and there's a cop standing in front of our door. And the cop says, go back in your apartment. And my husband says, no, I can't. I got to go down and get my Chinese food. It's going to get cold. So the cop said, oh, yeah, okay, fine. So here's what you do. Crawl. You can't walk because there's an incident on your floor. So crawl over to the stairwell, go down one flight, take the elevator down, and then reverse the procedure, reverse this coming back. But you can't get off the elevator on the 11th floor. So my husband, who's got terrible, terrible knees, and I said, I'll go. And he said, no, I'll go. Because he wanted to see what was going on. So he's crawling on his knees, and he does this, and he goes down, he comes back, he brings back the Chinese food. And while he's gone, I hear a gunshot. Seriously, I hear a gunshot. There may have been 2 gunshots. I don't know if the police are shooting into the apartment. I don't know if someone's shooting out of the apartment. I don't know where it's coming from, and I'm not going to go look. And although I did open the door, and the cop said, get back in there. What was going on was that there was a Hells Angels family at the end of the hall. Great people, love them. So there was something going on over there. So my husband comes back, we're eating, and it gets very quiet out in the hall. And the next thing we know, there's a knock on the door, and the cop says, all clear, you can come out. And we said, okay. And my husband turns around to the cop and says, hey, we got some leftover Chinese food. Do you want some? And the cop says, no, thanks. I really appreciate it. But wait a minute. Do you have an egg roll?
The New York hospitality. I love it.
And I said, we just ate the last egg roll. And the cop says, yeah, story of my life. So that's my New York story.
Wow.
Crazy. Scary.
What do you
I mean,
think?
I admire the trek to get the Chinese food.
Yeah.
And I love Chinese food, but not that much.
You can't let it go
Wow.
cold. You can't let it go cold. All right, that's all there is to it.
Christmas in New York is special and a great time for New York stories.
My name is Johnny Tamaro, Brooklynite, born and raised. Will never leave New York. Never, never. I'm going to tell you a Christmas New York experience that I had. So I'm at the famous toy store, FAO Schwartz in Rockefeller Center. I'm the toy soldier there. I've been there since 2018. I love every minute of it. I get to wear my toy soldier uniform. I'm outside, I'm inside, I'm creating magical, whimsical memories for children of all ages. It's about 3 years ago, I think. Oh, I have to also add that during Christmas time, I do that during the day, and then at nighttime, I work at Macy's Herald Square as Santa Claus.
I love it.
Yes. So it's Christmas time. I'm outside. The line is out of control. The crowds are out of control. It's like a week before Christmas, so it's really, really busy. And to get to the break room to change, if I went through the store, it would take me, I don't know, 15 minutes because people will stop me to take pictures and the crowds and the this and the that. So this particular day, I was like, I'm not going through the store. I'm going around a corner. So I walked around 49th Street and I'm booking because I got to get upstairs, change, and walk over to Macy's. So I'm walking down the street. I'm on 49th between 6th and 5th. And all of a sudden, I hear, oh, look, Luca, a toy soldier. Can we take a picture with you? And I'm like, of course I have to do it. So I turn around with a big smile, and there's a woman and her, a man, a husband, and then a little boy and a little sister. So I said, of course you can. So I turn around. I said, your name is Luca? And he's like, yes. I said, oh my gosh, do you know the movie Luca? He goes, uh-huh. I said, I love that movie. It's a great movie. And then his friend says, Silenzio Bruno. And it's part of the movie. It's a cartoon. And we take a picture. And they say, thank you so much. And I go inside. I go upstairs. I change. I come downstairs. I get my coffee. And I take my stroll to Macy's. I get to Macy's. I go upstairs. I transform. And I sit in my throne in my house. And families are coming in, and families coming in, and family is coming in. Then around 9, I see a family in the little vestibule before they come in, and the mother is bent over. I see her back, and she's fussing with the children. And when they turn around and come in, I notice that it's Luca and his mother and the father,
Aw.
his sister. And I said, oh my God, I'm about to blow this lady's mind. So there I am sitting as Santa, and I said, oh, hello, and Merry Christmas. Oh my goodness, it's Luca. And the mother was still fixing his shirt collar, and her head went like this. Boom. And she goes, how do you know his name? I said, well, I'm Santa. I know all.
Of course.
I also know that you went to the toy store today and you encountered the toy soldier. And he said to you, Silenzio Bruno. And the mother's just looking at me like with this stare and this look like, what the hell is going on? So they sit on the present, we take the picture, say, Merry Christmas, what do you want for Christmas? He tells me, and they leave. And as they're leaving, she shuffles the boy and girl with the father out the door, and she comes over to me and she comes really close to my face and she says, how did you know his name? And how did you know we went to FAO Schwartz today? And how did you know the toy soldier said, Silenzio Bruno? I looked at her in her eyes and I said, because I'm Santa.
Perfect.
And she started crying. And she said, I know how this works, but this was the most magical moment of my life. That was
Love
my
it.
favorite stories, yeah.
Indeed, that was a great story.
I'm going to go ahead if that's okay, because my story is also a Christmas story. I'm Susie Cartman. Happened about 20 years ago. It was Christmas, the week between Christmas and New Year's, because I was a teacher and I was off that week. And I wanted to see a Broadway show. So I did what I usually would do at that time. I went to the TKTS booth on 47th Street just to see what they had. Although I will tell you that the show that I was most interested in seeing at that time was Jersey Boys, which I believe had opened that year. Anyway, but I'm like, see what I can get tickets for at a, half price. Well, the booth was closed. Now, I have never seen that happen either before or since. But I think the reason it was closed is that there were no tickets. So I said, okay, plan B. I started walking uptown from 47th Street, and I think I went into every damn theater between 47th Street and the end of Broadway. And every single show that I checked in on was sold out. And then I arrived on 52nd Street. I checked it out. It was the August Wilson Theater, where Jersey Boys was playing. And it was like the last theater I was going to hit at that point. And it must have been close to curtain in the matinee. And there's a big crowd outside the theater. And of course, I asked, the theater guy that was outside, I said, are there any tickets? No tickets, it's sold out. A guy in the crowd turns around to me and says, do you want a ticket? And I said, yeah, how much? And he was like, no, it's this is my 5th time. My wife couldn't make it. It's a ticket. To me, that's a particular kind of New York story because, you walk around. New York is a magical place full of adventures, and sometimes bad things happen, sometimes good things happen. But that was like,
Wow.
I needed a ticket, and that was the
so
show I wanted to
unexpected.
see. And
What a great Christmas
handed to me on a silver platter.
People outside of New York think, oh, New Yorkers, they don't have time for each other. They're rude, they're brusque.
I always
I think they're generous and
not only generous,
wonderful.
what I say about, like I say, New Yorkers get a bad rap for that reason. And I think you go outside New York and people are polite, but in New York, people are intimate. We're in it
Yes.
together, and people help each other, and there's no,
Yeah.
it's not formal. It's like, I always tell this, like you can be on the bus, on a crowded bus, and some stranger will, honey, your slip is showing.
Yeah.
They don't say good morning. They're
wanna know.
family. New Yorkers
Yeah.
are family. Now, I will
Yes.
have to say that the guy that gave me the ticket was from New Jersey.
Okay.
Jersey Boys, after all.
Oh, right. Everybody's
New
sort of
York
on
He was in
time.
New York. He was
But he was in New York.
People take care of each other in New York.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do.
I feel like we're in the trenches together, What it
Exactly.
feels like.
Speaking to that issue about New Yorkers being very helpful, I have a story. I'm Vanessa, and one of the producers of this podcast, along with Kathleen. So I used to work for Sesame Street at one time, and I was coming home from work, and I was taking the crosstown bus that goes across on 66th Street to the east side. So I get on the bus, and, the offices are, right by Lincoln Center. And so, of course, there are a lot of tourists, right? So these 3 Japanese guys, tourists, get on the bus, and they ask the driver, oh, how can we get to such and such a place? And the driver told them, well, you take this bus and, cross, and you get off at Madison Avenue, and then you get on this other bus. And then, so there's all these people standing around, and they go, no, that's not the way to do it. No, what they should do is go across here, take this other bus, and then they only have to walk. And then somebody else chimes in, no, that's not the way to do it. So they had all these people telling them how to go. And I don't know what they did eventually, because I got off the bus before they did. So I'll never know. But I was just so, I thought that was great that all these people, like here are these tourists, and all these New Yorkers are saying, no, we're going to tell them what the best way to go is.
Eager to help all
Yes,
of them, right?
Love to
exactly.
New Yorkers
Eager to
love to
help
give
and eager to
directions. I
argue.
know I do.
Always ready to help. And, we're kind of in your face, and they're not just saying, excuse me, but you should do this. No, they're like, no, you need to take this bus.
We own this city. We know where to go. We know what subway and what bus.
Exactly.
You almost feel like really proud of it,
Exactly.
You
Well-
know, I wasn't going to tell this story, but everybody's saying how people help you in New York. I had a Metro card and I went down on First Avenue to fill my Metro card so I can go on the bus. And I see, can't even say it, but the reason why I don't take subways anymore, an R, it starts with an R. I freak out and I don't know what to do. And it's like having a ball on its own, moving around. So I don't know
What was it, Kat?
a rat.
Thank you.
So I'm freaking and I don't know what to do. And so I jumped on the turnstile. So I'm literally one leg here, one leg here on the turnstile. And then God was with me because I heard the voice, the L train is coming. I thought, oh, thank you. So they'll help me. I swear, my mother, they got off the train. Nobody looked at me. Nobody gave me like there's this lady on a turnstile until this man, as I was begging him, like, oh, help. And he came over and he took me off the turnstile and we walked hand in hand, or I was on his arm, upstairs to First Avenue and 14th Street. And I thanked him. And I don't think he spoke English, but we just waved as he ran across First Avenue. And he really was a hero to me.
Well, you know why nobody gave you the time of day is because you decided to look the way you look on a turnstile. What are you, nuts?
Could you imagine? I did it. I didn't know what else. Where to
Did he
go.
carry you in his arms?
Practically, I would have asked him to give me a piggyback ride to go up, but he was wonderful. And he's just, but I didn't know what else to do. But the funny part is that New Yorkers are so used to everything.
Nothing phases us. Nothing.
That's true.
Nothing.
That's
Nothing.
true.
Um,
So, Anita,
Anita,
how about your story?
Hey, my name is Anita Salvati, and I live on New York's Upper East Side. I'm from Westchester. I was born and raised in Peekskill, New York, and I'm an actress and a teacher. And this is a story of when I was going to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I was doing a matinee of the play In the Summer House by Jane Bowles. And I was playing a comic relief role. My mother, a friend, my aunt Luciana, and my aunt Lucia, my Italian family came to see me at the matinee. I think my sister was with them too. My aunt Lucia has a thing of bringing food with her wherever she goes. And whenever she's hungry, she decides she's going to eat. So she's online to get into the matinee at the American Academy. And I'm in the dressing room getting ready to go on. I don't know any of this. And she begins to crack eggs against this pillar. And she's peeling the eggs. And of course, all the shells are going on the floor. And she's eating her egg. And my mother was mortified. They're sisters, and she says, Lucy, she says, you can't do this. She says, you're in a theater. She goes, I'm hungry. So she's eating her eggs. So my director, Herbert Mayches, who was very dear friends with Tennessee Williams. Well, he invited Tennessee Williams to come to the play that day because it was Tennessee Williams's favorite American play in the Summer House.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know why, because it's a very strange play, but anyway, he's in the audience that day.
Oh my God.
And
Wow.
Herbert Maches came out to look around at the audience, and he saw my aunt with the eggs, and he saw my mother, and he saw, he knew it was my family. And he came back in the dressing room, and he said to me, Anita, he says, your mother's out there, and your whole silly family. I couldn't believe it. I said, the day that Tennessee Williams is in the audience, my aunt is cracking eggs against the wall. And I said, God, help me. Please help me.
I can imagine.
But anyway, it was a day to remember because he did come backstage.
Ooh.
And it was just like,
Oh, wow.
like a moment in my life, etched in my life. And he said to me, I had a comic relief role. So he came in and he said, that was a very nice job. And he said to me, you're very funny. He said to me. So I thought I always hold on to that,
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, that is,
Yeah.
That was that's one of my New York stories.
that's great. That's great. Yeah, I could just see her peeling the egg.
There was no stopping her.
Anita and I, the way we're connected is through Tony and Tina's wedding. Anita was in Tony and Tina's wedding. I was in Tony and Tina's wedding. Both of us a very long time. And the food story you told me just now reminded me when my mother, one of the many times my mother came to the show.
I remember your family coming.
Oh my God. One time she got 3 of the middle tables, very long tables, and basically had it catered.
Oh,
She
love
had
it.
antipasto brought in and cheeses and meats and vegetables and all her friends and the whole cast, the whole show was only at my mother's table because they were eating.
And the other cast
Yeah.
members were wondering, where the hell do you get that?
Yeah.
They were having baked ziti and focaccia and salad, and they're looking at that.
And everybody's
table, when are
going,
we going to get ours?
where do they get that? When are we getting that? When are we getting that?
Love
I
it.
said, I'm sorry, that lady brought it from Brooklyn. I don't know what.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
that happened
love it.
a lot.
Can I add a brief? It's just because we're talking about subways.
Sure.
Again, on rush hour on the platform, waiting for the train. And he looked to be a homeless man. He was elderly and kind of disheveled, and his clothes weren't clean. And he had a sign, and it said, repent now, pray. And he's saying, Jesus is coming, repent, make amends. And this cute little boy with his mother pulls on her jacket and says, Mommy, is Jesus coming on the A train?
Does anybody else have another story they want to share?
I have another one. I was taking an improv class in the city with the First Amendment Theater Company. I'm going up Fifth Avenue. Actually, I'm going down Fifth Avenue, and suddenly I look, and I see this clown dressed in full clown regalia, coming up on a one of those unicycles. He's in the middle of traffic, and he's coming up, and everybody's staring at him. Everybody's looking at him, and traffic is stopping, and he's coming up, and he's pedaling, and he's holding out his arms, and all of a sudden, I'm staring at him, and he looks over. He's wheeling, and he goes, and he knew me. It was like, who the hell is this clown on a unicycle? Suddenly everybody on Fifth Avenue turns and looks at me. I said, I can't believe this. It was my teacher from the improv class.
Oh my God.
Much.
I love it.
Thank you all for sharing your stories. We hope you enjoyed them. If you have one, please let us know, and we'll reach out to you when we do our next episode of Only in New York. Thanks for joining us. We'd love to hear from you, so please visit our website at nowletstalkthepodcast.com and send us your comments and questions. We'll see you next time.